Recently, I took a trip to Boston and toured Harvard University and New England Conservatory to learn more about their dual degree program. In this video, I'll be interviewing Andrew Lee, who earned a dual degree from Harvard and NEC. I first heard Andrew's performance while watching the Cleveland International Piano Competition back in 2022. He received a jury discretionary prize in the competition. When I read his bio, I was surprised to learn that he was pursuing a dual degree in biology at Harvard and piano performance at New England Conservatory. I'm glad I had opportunity to connect with Andrew during my trip to Boston and interviewed him. I've chosen the topic of today's interview, generalist or specialist. So let's hear his thoughts on it. I would like to introduce you our special guest today, Andrew Lee, who earned a dual degree from Harvard and the New England Conservatory. And right now he's continuing his medical school at University of Massachusetts. Welcome, Andrew.
Great. Thank you so much for welcoming me here today, Hui. It's such an honor to be here and to be talking with you today, and I'm so excited.
I still remember you in 2022, won Cleveland competition. You're the only one I feel very special, wonderful technique, and all the musical details presented perfectly. And when I read your bio, I was, wow, because I saw you're from Harvard and New England. You must be a Superman at the time.
I don't think I'm Superman at all. So much to learn. Yeah.
Both Harvard and New England Conservatory are the top institutions in their field. To get in either of them are very tough already. And you got into both. What kind of confidence did you have when you applied for both?
Confidence, I don't think I had too much of that. The fact that I think I was in a transitional moment in my life. From my perspective, growing up, focused on my studies at school, my academics, but also I had this other thread going on, which was my music, kind of following footsteps of my older brother, George, whom you most likely know. So these two threads, music and my schooling, were extremely prevalent in my life. And at that point, when I was 17, 18 years old, I don't think I really knew what I wanted to do quite yet. Usually some people have an inkling of a direction, but I had two very strong paths open ahead of me. And so I kind of was thinking, well, I kind of want to buy myself some more time to kind of chase these two careers and see what happens and what comes of both and what interests me more. That was a perfect opportunity, you have such a history and storied education with Harvard, and with the New England Conservatory, you have one of the most formidable piano departments in all of the US. And so I thought, why not just try my hand and apply at both of them. And there was a huge element of luck that I got in, but
really?
I personally think so. I don't think I was stellar at anything, but so I consider myself really, really fortunate that I was able to make it to that program.
Have you applied for other schools?
So what I actually did was I applied to Harvard, and that was during the early admission. It was before the main regular decisions in, I want to say, November. And then when the news came out in December, I was completely shocked that they let me in that early admission round.
So that means your first choice was Harvard.
It was definitely my first choice. The other thing I forgot to also mention was I had seen my older brother go through that exact same program, and it just seemed more and more attractive to me to be able to combine those two. So I would say from a very early time, I really prioritized that dual degree program at Harvard with NEC. When I got into Harvard, I kind of was oh my God, that's 75% of the work done there, and the other 25% is getting into the conservatory. And so I sort of prioritized that and withdrew all the other applications that I had submitted up until that point, so that I could just focus on the NEC part. And I was also so ecstatic to hear that NEC also wanted me, and the dual degree program as a whole wanted me as well. Kind of, I feel like one of the luckiest people in the world to just have it work for me in one shot without having to worry too much about the other programs that were there as well.
either Harvard or NEC, any students have to take a lot of time to practice piano and also to do a lot of assignment or project in the college. How do you manage your time to satisfy both degrees?
For me, I like to think that I'm a decent, but like not the best scheduler, like how to try to front load some things and work on some things early, and then so that it creates like a lot of time for me down the road to practice or do some other activity that really requires like my full attention. But there definitely were moments, I would say, especially during my senior year, where I think kind of achieving both goals in piano as well as like school were extremely difficult. I can definitely think of like one example, which was during my senior spring. I thought it would be a good idea to do a senior thesis, and also conveniently around that time was preparing for the Van Cliburn competition in 2022. So that was like one of the most grueling experiences I'd personally been through, and I consider it a miracle that I was able to get through both, kind of survive like my time waking up to like going to bed. So practice for a little bit in the morning, go to my classes. The afternoon I would go to lab, do whatever wet lab experiments I would have to do, or meet with my advisor, work through the afternoon, go back to the practice room maybe if there was like an hour and a half of free time, and then go to dinner as well. And in the evening, if I had a little bit more time, I would practice some more, or like work on the other schoolwork. So it was kind of like a case of something where I had to structure essentially every minute of my day to make it happen. But I do think that sometimes when you're over capacity and you're overscheduled, like the desperation and the adrenaline sort of carries you over the finish line, if you know what I mean.
I know you will have limited time to practice piano when you're preparing competition, and at the same time you were preparing for your thesis.
Yes.
To graduate. Yeah. Did you use any special time management method, like a Pomodoro method, and those kind of 25 minutes concentrated for a subject and then take a 5 minutes break, all those kind of things, and they feel it's more efficient? Or maybe you have your own special method to manage your limited time?
So many people have different ways of coping with their stress. For me, at least got me through most of the spring, was having some reward at the end of it. I distinctly remember before the screening auditions for the Van Cliburn competition, I was like, that was probably some of the most busiest I was, because like I had to submit my thesis, and then I had like the screening auditions as well, all around packed around the same time. The reward I kind of like put as like a carrot at the end of the tunnel for me was a trip to Las Vegas with some of my friends, which is actually kind of hilarious, because like 2 or 3 days of free time, like during my spring break, that I could actually join them after my audition.
My next question is, how do you manage your stress or pressure?
Usually, like one method I have is to just drop everything. Like if I'm either too sleepy or too anxious to work, just drop everything and go for a walk and kind of like clear my head a little bit, disconnect from like my phone, and just sort of enjoy like nature for a little bit. Breathe in some of the fresh air, just remind myself that nothing really is that serious, if you know what I mean.
So just empty your mind,
Exactly.
Go out close to the nature,
Yeah.
Try to feel yourself better.
Right. Yeah, and sort of know that, so many other worse things are happening in the world. Like, I'm so lucky to even be here in the position I am.
Myself, I consider myself as a specialist because I got my master and doctor degrees in piano performance. I only focus on this particular area, but I always admire somebody have more knowledge and then have a broader sense. I think those people are the generalists. Obviously, you are very successful in both fields. You're a medical school and then you're also a great pianist. Do you think it's better to be a specialist, a generalist, or both? And how do you describe yourself?
As a generalist, you kind of have an idea of how to deal with like a multitude of scenarios. And I think just alone that versatility in being able to deal with those situations is such a perk to have, especially given that in many different scenarios, like you can't really predict what's going to happen to you. And so having a huge broad foundation as a generalist sort of gives you the ability to be flexible and to react as necessary. However, having spent so much time specializing either in music or in, I guess, like preparing for medical school, I definitely see the perks of having that edge or like that spike, because it allows you to really explore something like extremely in depth and have essentially a professional's knowledge, and it allows you to, you know, sort of reveal all the deeper meanings or deeper implications and to really spend the time to like understand it. For me, I would lean more towards being a specialist. I feel like it is definitely a bit of a trade-off or mutual exclusive thing to be either a specialist or a generalist. It just seems like there's too much information out there and there's too much to really kind of be both in a sense, or to really be both in the exact sense of those definitions, if that makes sense.
I think a Harvard education definitely help you to be as a generalist, because when you are in the college, you learn everything.
Yes.
All the classes you have to take, right? After that, you can choose what specialty you want to be later.
Yeah, that's valuable, especially you're just entering college and you don't really know what's going on. You kind of need that generalist knowledge to make an informed decision of what you want to be, and essentially give you a chance to debate with yourself and be like, do I really want this, or do I want something more?
My next question is, how do you suggest current piano learners to keep their passion on music, especially on the classical music?
I definitely remember so many times when I would be working on a piece and the daily progress didn't seem like it was enough. But I think one of the biggest perks of human knowledge and human learning is that you just need to sleep on it. You just need to work on it really hard and notice the patterns that are underlying a piece and just go to bed. And then the next morning, sometimes it'll be like magic and you can play it, but maybe something else won't work and you'll get frustrated again. Embracing that bigger picture view, I would recommend to like all young learners, and over time you'll sort of understand like what I'm saying. But I would say for now, like it can be really difficult to appreciate what I'm saying. I totally understand that.
Thank you very much for the interview. Best wishes, everything.
Thank you so much for having me today.